just got to go back.
That's crazy.
That's a good reason to go back. That's the only reason I would go to Austin.
Everybody's moving there. What the heck?
Yeah, he created a trend.
Well, everyone is now leaving Austin though and coming north or Texas. They're leaving Texas because like we've had an influx of Texas people start to move into Missouri. So, and they're bringing
Wait,
cash with them. So
They want to be
yeah.
left alone.
well, okay, here's a good one. We bought our house we bought our house 3 years ago and it was like 130,000. This is also a testament to where the market's at. And we were thinking about, we were just like, we're gonna sell it, like put it on the market and see what happens. And we listed it like 225. And these people from Texas came in with cash and they were like, yeah, we want to come see your house next month. We'll probably we really like what we see already, and we'll probably just offer you cash on the spot for it at 225. And I'm like, that is
Should have asked for
unbelievable.
more. Should
Isn't
have asked for more.
I know, but I was like, because I told my realtor, I was like, let's just list it at 2. And she's like, no, we're going to list it at 225. And then if they come down, you'll be happy. But they just full asking price, no big deal. I'm like,
250 is what you should have asked
yeah,
for.
but almost doubled
If
in
there
3
was-
years. Crazy.
If there was a house for 225 right now, I would be a homeowner. I'm in New York, and do you know how
Yeah.
much houses are here?
I can't imagine.
At least 450.
I was gonna say, Sam, we can
Minimum.
play this game because I'm in Colorado and this is like, it's fucking
I
terrible.
was in New York. How long ago
Wait,
was
Colorado's bad?
Expense wise,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I
Dang.
think like in the city I live in and I've grown up in, like you could maybe get a small house like Nathan's talking about for 500,000. Like 500,000 to $1 million is probably what you're gonna spend on most homes.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not easy in New York. So me and my boyfriend are both like I feel like such a degenerate living with my parents at 26 years old.
that? That's the new norm. It's
It
literally the
is
new
because
norm.
you can't afford housing anywhere.
Yeah.
So me and my boyfriend are both living with our parents, just trying to save. Our goal is May of next year, but we each have to save 20 grand in order
That's
to buy a house.
crazy. Holy cow.
That is crazy.
So
But that's just normal. Like more and more kids. Like I have kids that I've trained that are going to college and they're now almost out of college and they're like gonna move back home and find something until I can save. I'm just like, man.
I tried. I rented in New York for a year, but it was $2,000 a month in rent. Like I was just like throwing money away.
Gosh.
That's how it is here. Brand new apartments are 1,700 for a 1 bedroom.
So this is gonna hurt
I was in a
both your hearts.
studio, bro. I was in a
Oh,
750 square foot studio
Hey,
for
same square
2
footage side.
grand.
There's an extra wall, okay?
So here, I'll hurt your hearts. I'll hurt your hearts even more. We're moving into a building that's 4,800 square feet for our gym, and our rent payment for that 4,800 square feet is going to be $1,500 a month.
Go fuck yourself, Nathan.
So it sounds like
I guess
Missouri.
I'm moving to Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri's the move, or at least the real estate's the move, because then you can just buy and flip everything eventually.
I can't live in a place that sounds like misery. Like I just
That's
can't
not what
bring
it
myself
actually
to do it.
stands for. Like if you go back to
I know, but it's so close to misery that it's just like,
unbelievable. No.
are we gonna start this goddamn thing, Nathan?
I've already technically started it. So like, hey
Oh,
Sam, welcome to the
oops.
podcast. Welcome to the Irrelevant Podcast, everyone who's been listening for the first little intro here a little bit. This is episode 66. We're here with Sam. I'm not gonna try to pronounce it. I already forgot it again. So Sam, go ahead and
Kwieraga.
just tell everyone who you are, what you do, what your wonderful business is, and how you came across this wonderful podcast.
She
I
doesn't
don't
know.
even remember how I
Hey.
came across this one.
That's actually like right into the mold of what we do. So that's perfect.
Wait, it's irrelevant how
Exactly.
I came.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Does that work?
She's catching on quickly. This
There
is
we
gonna
go.
be good.
Fantastic.
Anyways, I'm Sam, Doc Sam Fit on Instagram. That's really how I'm known. But my last name is pronounced Kwieraga. Yes, very weird last name. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, certified strength and conditioning specialist, and my company is Unleashed Athletics. And I mainly work with female athletes who struggle with chronic pain, mobility limitations, and just don't feel like they can live an active life because they feel held back by pain or weakness. So we help them get back to that active life without feeling held back by those things.
How common I mean, it's just got to be an everyday thing like that, helping people with pain or joint discomfort or this pain, that pain. Does it ever get old? Because like I know that if like I would have went into PT or done something like that, I couldn't have done it because I just would have been the same chronic things over and over again. So what did you choose? Why did you choose to go into the field that you are currently in?
Well, I was an athlete myself, and I played lacrosse and basketball in high school. And I was constantly spraining my ankles, constantly had knee pain, and was like in and out of the game all the time. And I wasn't one of the best basketball players, but I was one of the better lacrosse players. And so for me to be out really killed me because I was like starting varsity as a sophomore. And the main premise behind the like why I was having pain all the time was because I wasn't eating enough. I was your typical, high school girl, Victoria's Secret models, want to be that skinny. So underate, binge eating, struggled with bulimia for a little bit. And that was really why I kept injuring myself because I just wasn't properly fueling myself. So originally I was on a mission to help women learn how to eat more, but then I felt like I was operating outside of my wheelhouse, with calling in a lot of women with eating disorders. So I was like referring them out a lot. So one of the main pillars is nutrition of like Unleashed Athletics. We do a lot with nutrition. Obviously, if there is any eating disorder behavior, we refer out. But I just started to find that there was a lot of lifestyle factors that came into play with my injuries and my aches and pains that PT wasn't really addressing. Like I would go into PT and I would just do table exercises. And I'm like, hey, I'm a starting varsity lacrosse player at the high school. Like, I think I need to get off the table. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not the expert here, but like I just don't understand how this is getting me back. And nobody really liked when I questioned them. So I stopped going to PT and I started going to a strength and conditioning camp in the summer that my high school ran, and it was me and the football guys. And I was intimidated as hell. But the guy who ran the strength and conditioning took me under his wing and taught me the ropes of strength and conditioning, taught me the ropes of nutrition. And that's ultimately what pulled me out of my eating disorder, allowed me to get out of pain, and like stay on the field. So I got into PT because I wanted to change the industry because I didn't like what I was seeing. So kind of opposite to why some people get into PT. They're like, "Oh, I loved it. I had such a good experience when I was rehabbing." Like I was the opposite. I had a bad experience and I felt like I needed to change the industry in one way, shape, or form. So that's why I got my CSCS when I was still in school getting my doctorate because COVID hit and I lost all of my jobs. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? So I decided to study for the CSCS, got that. And now I combine the two and we use strength and conditioning principles, rehab principles, nutrition, and recovery principles like sleep, hydration, things that PT I feel like doesn't always touch on when you go in there. And not because they don't necessarily want to, or not that they don't have the knowledge. I just feel like they're lacking the time and the resources because insurance caps you and, all that good stuff.
It seems like the more and more I talk to people about PT or that go to PT or do rehab activities with surgery or whatever they're doing, that's more of the trend of like, I don't feel like they did enough for me. I don't feel like they got me back to a level of where I was before, especially athletes. I always tell them like, you need to really look into who you're going to go and see after this surgery. Like, don't just go to just some random Joe Schmo PT because they're just going to get you back to livable conditions essentially. But now even adults are shifting that focus, it seems like, and they're like really looking for quality PT. And now it seems like on Instagram, kind of what you're talking about, I see a lot more of the strength and conditioning and the PT stuff kind of combining into one scope because they don't like where the PT field is right now. So kudos to you for jumping in on that adventure or that lifestyle or however you want to do things. But do you feel like it's definitely easier to bridge the gap for people with the strength and conditioning background that you now have and the PT experience and kind of get people on board with what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like because I honestly coach a lot of PTs. I have a lot of PTs in my roster, ATs, nurses, because they'll say the same thing like, I went to PT school and I learned all this great stuff, but I feel like I don't understand. Like it's just alarming to me when physical therapists are coming to me and saying, I don't understand how to build a strength program. And I'm like, oh, you probably should know how, because like you're talking about, if we want to get you back to like Because the issue is that what insurance will deem medically necessary, right? If you don't have like too much pain, if you can go about your daily life, if you do everything that you need to do to survive, insurance is going to say, cool, you're done. We're not giving you any more PT sessions. And I don't know why anybody would want to pay $200 for a 20-minute session with a physical therapist and then another, just about another half hour with a rehab tech, right? Like it's a lot of money for not a lot of value. Um, so I lost my train of thought.
They're telling
Well,
us how they need to be able to build strength and
yeah. Why do
conditioning programs, and
PT?
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So physical therapists are coming to me and they're like, I don't know how to have that bridge program. So that's where I got my CSCS to help me learn how to actually strength train because in PT school they teach you like they call us movement specialists and I think that's a little far-fetched. Yes, we learn in-depth gait analysis, so how people walk. Outside of that, we're not taught a ton. We're taught some exercises, and we went really, like from my memory in PT school, we went real in depth on neuro exercises, but those are for people with like strokes and spinal cord injuries. And I think the issue with PT, it's not necessarily like schooling. I can go down so many rabbit holes here, but there's so many avenues with physical therapy, right? Like there's neuro, there's cardio, there's pediatric, there's ortho. So I think physical therapy school does their job of graduating us as a general practitioner. And I think where people lack when they leave school is if they do want to go into ortho or musculoskeletal or sports, you need additional education. And I don't think enough people seek that. I think that's where the issue comes into play. Like PT school does a great job of general practitioner because you need to be, because there's a lot of different avenues, but different you need additional schooling if you're going to go into either like any of those avenues. So that's where I think the CSCS really complements PT is understanding the strength training aspect of things. And that's what I've been able to help like young PTs do as well.
for anybody listening, I only recommend PTs that have weights in their office or they train out of a gym. Also, I don't know if it works like this where you're at, Sam, but the ones that you can only pay cash for are the only ones worth going to. Because then
Yeah,
you don't have the insurance thing where they're like, oh, well, this is, let me give you the slowest path to recovery for as long as possible so
exactly.
insurance can keep paying you. And
Exactly.
do you find a lot of those PTs don't even realize that they've gotten stuck in this system with insurance until like later on after they've done it for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, luckily I didn't stay for too long, but I worked after school. I graduated in 2020 and I started working in person. And I worked in person for a year and a half in the system. And I luckily, like I only worked for a year and a half before I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I was running my business as well as doing PT, and I wanted the in-person component because I was like, I know I'm new, like I need the experience, but I couldn't do it anymore between calling doctors, calling insurances, writing notes, like it's not enough patient contact for me. And I just didn't feel comfortable giving my patient to a rehab tech whose degree wasn't even in exercise science, who I had to teach exercises to. Like to me, it's not ethical because the patient is coming and paying whatever their copay is, whether it's $50, $20, $100, they're paying for a service and we're not providing that service because we don't have time. So like I fell into that where I was in the insurance model of I just have to see these patients. I have to get them in and out because I don't have time and I have to do this and I have to do that. And all right, you have back pain. Here's gluten core exercises because that's what's going to help. And it's like not for everybody, but you do fall into that because you don't have time. Like being a physical therapist requires a lot of thinking. And if you don't have the time to think, then you're not going to be able to provide the best service. That's why cash base is better because you have the full hour. You're not handed off to a rehab tech. You have the full hour. And that's why I started online because I have unlimited time with my clients. I'm available for them 6 days a week and I talk to them almost every day, especially in the beginning. When we're first starting up, I'm talking to them almost every day. It's not only the 1 hour of PT, here's your exercises, do this, do that. It's every single day. What are your stress levels like? What's your water intake like? What's your nutrition like? How was your sleep last night? And I'm giving them things that they're doing in the gym that's helping them with hiking, skiing, golfing, running. And that's the things that you can't touch on in PT because you're capped on time.
What kind of unique challenges have you run into doing it online that you maybe didn't foresee being a thing when you were making the switch from in person to doing more online coaching?
Immediate feedback. So when we are talking, like in neuro, we learn about different types of feedback that people receive. So there's delayed feedback, which is good in the later learning stages. There's immediate feedback, which is good during the early stages. So with online, obviously I'm not doing the exercises at the same time as them. So there's been a challenge of me being able to provide that immediate in the moment tactile feedback. There is a ton of benefit to tactile feedback. And this is where you have to weigh the pros and cons because I don't think there's a perfect solution yet. So I'm weighing the pros and cons of, well, would I rather be in person and give my client tactile feedback or and not be able to touch on any other aspect of their life or be able to touch on every other aspect of their life and maybe miss out on the tactile feedback? I'm taking option B. One thing I've done to try to mitigate this recently is I allow my clients to have two live sessions with me a month. So it's not a full workout session, but it's okay, what exercises are you not getting that you need my immediate feedback on? So they're taking videos, they're sending me videos, but sometimes that delayed feedback isn't enough or they just don't get it. They need me to be like telling them in the moment. So I've started implementing that and I've seen success with that in trying to bridge that gap. So twice a month they can pull me for live form feedback. And then that way I've been able to give that immediate feedback. Again, there's not the tactile aspect of it, but it's better than the alternative.
I'm stealing that idea, by the way, because I've just been restructuring how I sell people on what I call memberships. And it's like,
Mhm.
all right, well, if you're going to be a competitor, we're going to do as much in person as possible because I need to fast track this whole process. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, especially like I get new powerlifters, have never done it. There's no fucking way I'm letting them do that stuff on their own. Like,
Yeah.
because there's so much nuance and there's so many things that they could gain from doing. I'm like, no, this is what you're going to have to do. Otherwise, you're going to have to find another coach because I'm not going to be doing this over the online stuff. So, do you find like, because you deal with a lot of athletes, that there's different tiers or different levels of people that are going to succeed at different rates because of that?
Yeah, so I do work with a wide range of athletes. Some athletes who are new to their fitness journey, new to mobility journey, right? Like they have no idea what mobility even is. And then there's some who have, like I said, I have some physical therapists on my roster who don't necessarily need that live feedback, but they need, the additional nuances of like how do we properly progressively overload, what are some new ideas for me? Like some PTs just come to me because they're like, listen, I do this for people all day long and I don't want to do it for myself. Or they just want, a different perspective and they want to learn something. But so I do have those ends of the spectrum. So for my beginners, again, it's a lot more communication in the beginning. Some people who have been doing this for a while, who are trainers themselves, PTs themselves, they don't need as much communication in the beginning and they definitely don't need those live sessions. But so there's definitely a range
How do you
that.
how do you go about promoting your service as opposed to someone that just wants to use their insurance to go get covered by a random PT because it'll cost them less money? So how do you promote yourself in a way that shows people like I can provide you infinitely more value by coming to me instead of using their insurance, or maybe they still can use their insurance when they come to you?
Yeah, so right now I'm not taking insurance. I can take HSA, but I'm not taking insurance right now. I do see a world where, when I do eventually settle down, I'm going to open up an in-person clinic where I can take some in-person people, but it's going to be cash 1 hour sessions, it's not going to be your typical PT place. Um, but most people that come to me, they've already tried PT. So when we're talking about it and like, oh, do you take insurance? I'm like, no. Did insurance work for you before? Okay. We're different. And this is why we don't take insurance. Because if we took insurance, I would be capped on time. I'd be capped on resources, what I could help you with. Because also the body is connected as a whole, right? We talk about the kinetic chain. Your shoulder could be the cause of your back pain. Your foot could be the cause of your hip pain, right? And PT is not allowed really to look at the whole body. You're told to, but when it comes to insurance, you're not really allowed to, because if you can't justify like if you're writing in a patient's note, did right shoulder external rotation, insurance is like, they have foot pain. I'm not covering this visit. That doesn't make any sense to me because they're not movement experts. They don't get it. So that's also where insurance caps you, not only on time, but on what you can do. So that's another thing that I'll bring up to people is like, hey, listen, it might actually be a different body part that's causing your pain that your PT was not able to address because of insurance. If you're there for your knee, you're working on your knee. If you're there for your foot, you're working on your foot. Like I remember when I was treating ACLs in clinic, we had to play the insurance game, right? It's like, all right, they tore their right ACL and you're working on the right knee for however many months, like they give you like 32 visits at first or whatever. Then you run out of those visits, then you apply again and they'll give you like half of that. Then you apply again and they give you nothing. So now you have to bill insurance for the left knee and you have to like make the note so nuanced, like, oh, well, now the left knee is overuse so that you can keep working on the right knee. So you have to play the insurance game. And to me, that's just an extra step. That's too much of a headache that I shouldn't need to play to help my patient.
This sounds so much worse than I ever imagined in my entire life.
It's
Like, what the
insurance.
fuck?
And this
It's
is why
insurance. What do you expect?
I understand insurance is a great business on not paying and not doing like, but Jesus Louises, like there's no way I would spend all this time to go to school and then this is what I have to fucking do when I get done with it. Like, God, I'm so glad I avoided all of that. I'm not, Jesus Christ. Like, kudos to you for giving it a shot and figuring out that it's all a bunch of bullshit.
Kudos to you for
Wow.
realizing it's all a bunch of bullshit too. Yeah, like
Yeah.
1,000% for sure.
Like, because I'll have this argument with clients all the time. Well, I got to go to the PT. I'm like, okay, like have fun with your dry needling session. That's not going to do anything, but enjoy.
I know. And sometimes my clients will ask me, can I go get dry needling done? Can I go to the chiro? And I'm like, hey, listen, a lot of it, the dry needling, the taping, a lot of it, the science, the research is showing it's placebo. But listen, if you want to go try it, because at the end of the day, if it makes you feel better and allows you to do more with me, I love it. I don't care if it's placebo, I love it. Right? Same thing with ice. Ice is very controversial. I hate it for the first 24 hours, but after that, if you want to use it because it takes away your pain,
Thank you.
cool. I don't
Thank
care.
you. Thank you so much for saying that. Every time I hear a kid, they're like,
It's
they get
meth,
hurt.
not the fucking rice method.
No. And the guy that invented it doesn't even endorse it
He
anymore.
literally came out and was like, just kidding, guys. And everyone's like, no, we need to ice. And I'm like,
It's-
Yeah, he
just
came up with the
kidding.
meth one. It's mobilize, elevate, traction, and heat.
But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's just thank you for saying that because it's like I say this stuff. It's so funny that our realms cross over a lot. I think Alex and I talk about a lot of things where we're like, there's so much overlay and crossover, and people just because we're not the expert or we didn't go to school in it or we didn't do XYZ, they don't fully commit and fully believe the words that come out of our mouths. So we fight a lot of those placebo things or those little silly things that people see on TikTok or Instagram or this or that.
Oh my God.
And it's like, those are the things as coaches that are just like they drive you crazy because you're like, no, no, no. But I guess maybe there is some value in some placebo, but man, it gets exhausting. People just like, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? Can
The
I do this?
exhausting part is that I've studied this longer than most doctors have studied anything medicine related, and just because I don't have the letters, they're like, "Oh, well, I don't know if you're right," and I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. I only have thousands of hours of evidence in the form of anecdotal evidence, which doesn't mean anything to anyone for some reason, even though it's like, no, 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 I do this thing, and this is what happens every time."
Yep. No, I am with you. But if it does give them like some form of relief and allows them to do more, that's where I'm a proponent of it. And at the end of the day, I'm like, it's your money. If you want to go waste money on dry needling, like that is your money to do whatever you want to do with it. I had a athlete recently. She's awesome. I love her so much. She needs to like see things. So she had something going on with her foot. It was weird. We didn't really like, she literally just developed a random bruise. And she's like, I don't know where it's coming from. And so she got an x-ray. And wait, this is so funny. Um, the chiro place that she went to get the x-ray was having a special of if you get one x-ray, the other x-ray is half off.
Oh my.
What? Just X-raying stuff to X-ray stuff?
Just shoot him. Hit him with
Hey,
the X-rays.
please get
So
some extra
so
radiation. Half off on
Oh
radiation
so
today.
so
gosh.
anyways,
Wow.
she got an x-ray of her foot, and then because it was half off the other one, she also got an x-ray of her knee to see what was going on, and because she was having some weird lateral knee pain too. But I was like, it was presenting as she just needed more stability, so I was trying to explain that to her, whatever. So x-rays were clear. It showed a little bit of decreased joint space on the lateral side of the knee, whatever. But so it made her feel better. Again, like, listen, it's your money, you spend it. If it's gonna make you feel better, cool. So she got the x-rays, they were clear, and it made her feel better. And then she then listened to me and we kept exercising, and now she's feeling better. So I'm for it. If you understand that you're probably wasting your money, but like it's your money to waste, so you do that. If it's gonna make you feel better and allow you to do more with me, then yeah, please like do it then instead of waiting and keep questioning, right? And because it's also pain does have a psychological component, right? So if people can have that peace of mind, but on the other end of the spectrum, when you get x-rays, MRIs, and then you see you have a disc bulge and your back wasn't hurting you, but then all of a sudden you see you have a disc bulge and now your back starts to hurt, like that's where imaging then goes the other way. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent. But one thing with the x-rays of this client is that they only x-rayed like that side. And I was like, I kind of would have liked to see the other side as well to compare. But that's what they don't think about. They only like PTs will only look at the painful side, x-ray only the painful side. Well, what if it's the same as the other side though? Like, and the other side doesn't have pain, so does the pain really matter? So I don't know, I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but that's just my
Oh,
You're
just
making
keep
way too
going.
much
Just
sense.
just
That's what you're
keep
doing.
going. Yeah. No, like you're sitting here talking about this the whole time about like pain's not usually like where you're hurting is not usually where the source of the pain's actually coming from. And people always I immediately think of like if someone's like, oh, my lower back, it's like, okay, hips probably. Or like, okay, my knee's bothering me. Okay, well, it's probably maybe it's I'm always thinking like away from where the pained area is. It's like, okay, that it might be that area, and there could be something wrong there, but I'm like, what about this other stuff that could be the pain source? And are people shocked whenever you do that? You're just like you go to other areas of the body to like show them like it's actually not where you're thinking it's hurting you. It's actually could be this other thing. Do people like really are they shocked by that usually?
usually at first, and then I take the time to sit and give them an anatomy lesson and explain it. So I just had one athlete who, like, both of us are kind of confused as to why she did injure her back. She was deadlifting and she sent me the video, and her deadlifts looked great and she wasn't even going super heavy. Like, this was a weight that she had touched before. Everything looked great. And this is where understanding pain really helps and comes into play, because tweaks are going to happen if you're playing a high level sport, if you're lifting heavy, like you're going to have tweaks happen, right? So she was deadlifting and all of a sudden just felt a tweak in her right low back. And we deduced that it was muscular, right? So we did a couple things, and I looked at her standing on a single leg, each leg. The left leg, when she stood on it, her hips dipped a little. So that's like, I don't know if you guys have heard Trendelenburg. So it just means that she's weak hip abductors. So the left leg, then we did some left leg testing, and it seemed that the left leg was a little bit weaker than the right leg. So, I kind of talked to her about how with that left leg being weaker, the right leg was probably taking over and doing more of the work all of these weeks that we've been deadlifting. And then all of a sudden, this was just the occurrence, just the thing that pushed it over the edge. That right leg got fatigued, stopped working. The back took over as it should in the deadlift, but we just overloaded the back. The back wasn't ready for that load. Doesn't mean your back can never handle that load. It just means that at this moment, it wasn't ready for it. And by giving her that education, like, she was able to be like, oh, okay. But at first she was like, what? My left glute being weak is why I hurt the right side of my back. I'm like, yes, it's all connected. So now we're doing a lot of single leg work, a lot of glute med work, and her back is actually starting to feel better. She's back to deadlifting and feeling fine. And, and it was pretty quick, and she said that prior this would have put her out for 6 months because she was scared to go back to deadlifting, except I put her back to deadlifting the next week. I was like, no, go back in there and do it. Just do lightweight. I want you to do the movement so you're not scared of the movement, right? And that psychological piece. If you pull people away from the movement, then they're going to keep thinking that movement is painful and never want to do that movement, right?
I'm super glad you said that, and really glad to hear that, because a lot of people that do hurt themselves in the weight room, their first response is always, "Well, maybe I shouldn't squat, or maybe I shouldn't deadlift, or maybe I shouldn't." And I'm like, "No, no, no. This let's like not just eliminate it completely. We have to be able to get you back to like a level of healthy fear, I guess you could call. I don't know how you would categorize it, but don't just
I like
completely eliminate it, right? Like I had a girl, same thing the other day, squatting on a box, kind of felt a little something, and just took her away from it, did some stuff with her. Next week she came back in, she's like, "Do you really want me squatting today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're going right back to it. We're going to find a way where we can't irritate it, where it doesn't hurt, just so you get the confidence of getting right back under the bar and understand that like these things happen. It's going to happen. We just have to continue working through those things." So I'm really glad that you said that, because a lot of people don't. As soon as pain happens, they're just done. Like they're like, don't ever, or they'll, for the rest of their lives, or they'll hurt themselves. And then 10 years later, they're like, "Yeah, I haven't deadlifted in 10 years because I hurt myself this one time and I never wanted to come back to it." So then they have a really bad association with that lift or whatever. I hear that all the time. I don't know if you have the same experience, but
Yeah, I get that all the time. And then we have to do desensitization therapy. So, like you said, finding a variation that you can do. Okay, maybe we're not doing the barbell right now. If the barbell is really lighting you up and you're more than a 4 out of 10 pain and you really can't do it, all right, let's stay away from the barbell. But can we do a Bulgarian split squat? Can we do a regular split squat? Can we do a reverse lunge? Can we do a goblet squat? Just usually the way that I'll start is I'll be like, all right, where's the range of motion that hurts? And then we'll stop just before that range of motion. And then we'll work through that range of motion and we'll slowly increase range. And that helps get over the fear of the movement itself and allows them to see, okay, I can still do this. And my goal too is to give my athletes these tools that they can do this. Like whenever they do get injured when we're working together, I'm like, great, this is amazing. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, this is great because now I can teach you how to work through it so that when this happens again, because I promise you, you're going to tweak a muscle at some point in your life again, you know how to handle it and you don't spiral and freak out and stop moving and go see a chiro and get an x-ray and do this and do that and whatever. And I'm not bashing chiros either. I love some chiros.
rip them, get them. No,
No, I really do love some of them. It's just like they just get a bad rap because a lot of them aren't great. But you could say the same thing about PT now, right? Like a lot of PTs aren't great. So you
you
could
could
say the same
every
exact thing.
field. You could say it about every field.
Why do we
I mean,
stick with the umbrella of if they only take cash, do they qualify as being good?
Yes.
yeah.
Cash
Because
only is good.
the way I explain it to people, I go, the people with insurance are there to treat you. The people with cash are there to actually give you a solution. It's a big difference.
Yeah. Short term versus long term.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one that makes people deal with their fears, though. Huh, Nathan?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Poor Nathan hurt himself deadlifting too.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to
Do you
deadlift. I
train
just,
Nathan?
yeah,
You do?
yeah, not
Yeah.
afraid to
I'm not very
deadlift.
Nathan, do
nice
you
about
train
it.
Alex?
No,
Nobody
no.
trains me. I don't listen.
Alex, listen, you try to train Alex, there's no good luck. Good luck to the person that tries to take that task on. No,
No, nobody's going to try to take it on because I know better. I've
yeah,
trained enough coaches that want to argue with what I make them do that I'm not going to do that to someone else.
he's beyond the capacity of anyone helping him. He
No,
tried
I'm
to
not. I'm just
explain
not in a place where I want to be willing to give that up yet.
he tried to explain his training to me at the summit, and we sat there for like 10 minutes waiting in between a session just so I could get it right to try to figure out how his brain works with training. And it took me 10 minutes to literally piece it together. And I was like, okay, I think I have it. And
That's
I'm like,
hilarious.
yeah, I never would have thought of
I
that.
might be slightly autistic. I don't know.
Oh, so did you
Looping back to the nutrition thing
go
real
ahead?
quick, Sam. What is it you
Yes.
like to recommend for people? Like I've been going down this vertical diet rabbit hole because Stan Efferdine is a freak, and I started reading the book, and I'm like, oh, this is everything that I should be telling people because it is the same shit that I'm saying. But like, what kind of things do you like to recommend to people for nutrition wise? Because like even he says, like kids who don't eat enough are going to have a real bad time trying to play sports and even trying to grow into their full capabilities without good nutrition.
Yeah, so the CSCS actually just came out with new nutritional guidelines this year. So I'll do every other week, I do a presentation to my athletes about like some kind of educational thing again, so that they can do this long term. So it's not just like quick fix one and done. Um, So I just presented to them the new guidelines. And so I'll give them guidelines on like calorie intake, but I try to stay away more from calorie and more give them just the macros. So right now CSCS is recommending, I mean, they have a bunch of different like recommendations if you want to lose fat, build muscle, maintain, increase performance, whether you're an endurance athlete versus a strength athlete for like carb intake. And then they have like their protein intake as well. And then fats are just the 20 to 35% of your daily intake. So I try to get a lot of my athletes to track macros if they have never done it before, because I do think that there's a really great value in tracking to learn about food. I don't track anymore, so sometimes it feels like weird for me to be telling people you should track, even though I don't track anymore, but I also tracked for a number of years to learn about food. Some people are still like very against it and just like it causes them more stress. Again, like there's nothing worth people's stress to me. So if tracking macros is going to cause them more stress, all right, drop it and let's just focus on making your meals well balanced. So I want you to have 4 meals a day, protein, carb, fat, fiber. That's what I want you to think with every meal. If we can accomplish that, I think we're good. And usually at first, again, like at first it's a lot of communication between me and the client. So they're going to send me pictures of their meals so that I make sure they are eating enough, because what I deal with is a lot of female athletes under eating. Again, exactly what I struggled with in high school. So that's where I'm wanting them to track macros, that they can learn how much they actually need to eat, because a ton of them are under eating. Or again, if tracking macros is too much stress, or they've had a history of an eating disorder and it's going to trigger that, okay, let's just send pictures and let's just be mindful about the quality of our food. So I talk about usually at first too, if they are dealing with chronic pain, we look at an anti-inflammatory diet. So really like, I don't know, anti-inflammatory diet is really to me just kind of buzzwords, but again, focusing on quality of food. Antioxidants, making sure we're getting in micronutrients, because we want to bring inflammation down naturally without using medication, without using ice and all of these things. So in general, we're just looking at living a healthier lifestyle. A ton of people are under eating protein, overeating carbs and fats, right? So you just want to focus on that balance. If I have athletes tracking macros, we find a balance that works for them. Some athletes function better on high carbs, some function on better high fat. I know I like a higher fat diet. I always gravitate towards fattier meats, nuts, seeds, whereas other athletes are like even just my boyfriend's sister, we were just having this conversation over the weekend, like she functions better on higher carb. She feels like her body composition is better at higher carb, but I feel like mine's better higher fat. So it's learning that balance for yourself too, to know what you function best on, because it's not a one size fits all.
Just to be my trolling self, how would you know if you don't track?
That's what I tell. That's
I'm
what I
sorry, I
tell
had
my
to. I had to do
no,
that.
but that's what I tell my athletes too, and like most of them I end up getting through to. Like I have a couple right now who started off and were like very adamant about not tracking, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And then we're a couple months in and they're like, yeah, so I'm thinking about trying that tracking macro thing because I don't really think I'm seeing the results that I want. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna revisit this with you in a few years because I'm at the point where I'm like, nope, you're fucking tracking if we're doing this. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't give a shit. Because like we're just playing like guessing in the dark if we're not tracking. But I also just started the whole picture thing. I'm like, you have to take a picture of every meal and send it to me.
Yeah, I think there's just like it depends on the population you work with, and the like I'm sure your clients respond well to that kind of coaching.
No, they usually don't. They're pretty general population people for the most part. It's
There's
not a
I don't know that
I'm just an asshole and don't care.
there's not a population that does respond to the hey, let's track and let's figure out what you're actually eating, because no one wants to admit what they're actually eating and what they're actually tracking.
Well,
So
and that's the conversation I'll have too. Like I am a pretty like I'm not I am a pretty not like I don't want to say hard ass, but like I'll tell you how it is. Like I'm like, you don't want to track because why? Like tell me, give me a real reason. And again, if they do have a history of an eating disorder, I'm not really going to push it, because I don't want to push them into any more, like I don't want to again work outside of my scope. Um, but I do try to get them to track, and I will say that most of my athletes track. I stopped tracking right now. I mean, I was tracking for a while, like for years, but I stopped tracking right now because I don't have specific physique goals right now. I have some like internal health going on. I'm working with a functional medicine doctor. Um, and we're like focusing on that first. So right now I'm focused on nutrient quality, and I have a pretty good idea of like what I'm eating because I've been tracking macros for probably 15 years at this point. Not 15 years, that would be 11. Probably 10 years.
Well, all right. Then I guess you might get a pass. But on that same note, you should look into Stan's vertical diet. It's very, very impressive how well he's mapped all this out and
Dan's
how you
vertical diet.
Stan Efferdine. So it's the vertical diet is what it's called.
Okay.
And then like he makes it so easy that he has meal prep kitchens to where if people really don't want to fucking have to think about it, they just order meals from him. So if you have people that are that stubborn, which I have tend to have a lot of, and like once again, because I don't have the fancy letters past my name, they don't listen to me. But if I give them a book and it says the same shit that I'm telling them, they
You
tend to
should just
listen
do what
more.
I do. Just let them not track for a couple
Hmm.
months and be like, okay, see how it works for you. And then when
Well, I
they're like,
just
I feel like I'm not seeing the results, I'm like, okay, so
yeah, I flat out won't do nutrition stuff with them if they're not going to track. Like that's just all there is to it. I don't pay for chronometer for you to not fucking track. Like
Yeah,
if you don't want to track, that's fine. I'm just not going to help you with that part of this.
I changed my pricing in my plans, like kind of like what Alex, I think you sent me that your stuff the other day. I went to that a couple months ago. I was like, here's training with nutrition, here's training with blah blah blah. I mean, just you just give them tiers, and it's like, okay, well, if you're not willing to pay for it, then I'm not willing to spend the time to help you do it. I guess like I don't, because I'm not gonna bang my head against a wall for you paying for something where I have to just continue to fight and fight and fight. It's like, okay, well, if this is what you want, then just pay for this, and we'll move on. So it's tough though because
that's
I want to
funny.
really help
See,
them.
yeah, I don't even offer a training only package. I'm like, no, if you're gonna do this, we need to focus on nutrition because with pain too, like if you are following my training program, but you're eating fast food every day, that's creating inflammation in the body. And if we don't have good nutrition habits, it very well could wreck our whole process, right? Like we need the nutrients to repair muscle. We all know, I mean, I hope that we all know at this point, we don't build muscle in the gym. We build muscle when we sleep and when we rest. And that's the first thing I talk to my clients about too. I'm like, we're not going to build muscle in the gym. We break it down. And we need the fuel to repair the muscle. So if we don't have proper fuel, so that's why if they are super not adamant about tracking macros, we focus on that nutrient quality. I think that's where sending them food photos does hold them accountable, because if they're not wanting to track their food because of the numbers, if it is because they're like embarrassed of what they are eating, if they have to send you a photo of it, it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense. It's just every time I've tried to be nice and not charge them for the amount of time I put into the nutrition part,
Right.
it ends up biting me in the ass. And then they don't want to pay the price that I asked. So it's like, okay, then we can just do the training.
Yep.
Like I'll let you do it a la carte if you want to.
Yeah.
But then eventually what happens is they're not getting the results they want, so then they have to pay anyways.
It's
Yeah,
it's
exactly. Like
it's
at the end of the
always
day, they always realize.
well, it's always funny because they come to us because they want training advice first, but it's like that's actually third on the list. Like I tell people, it's always like sleep, nutrition, training. Like I look at it like that. So first, let's look at your sleep habits. Second, let's look at what your nutrition's doing, and third, then we'll talk about like because the training's gonna work. Like I promise
Yeah.
you, I'll get you something out of this training. Like I'm not. I've got it to the point. We've worked hard at what we do. We worked hard at our craft. We build plans that are gonna help you, but they help you based on these first two things. And so if you don't want to do these first two things and you're still just training and you're not getting the results that you want, it's like, well, you're doing a third of the work. So if you want to start doing 100% of the work, then you'll get 100% of the result. But I'm not going to bang my head over it and over and over and over again. I've just given up to the point where like, okay, I've tried to come about this every way I can and you're not helping. So I'm going to just step back and do my part of training. Here you go. So
Yeah,
that's
one day I'm
tough.
going to figure out how to make them do nutrition and mobility for at least 12 weeks before we ever touch any type of weights because it's
Yeah,
fucking ridiculous.
that's a good concept. Yeah, that's really smart. Good luck.
I actually do a full, I do a, when our athletes first start with us, they do a full week of just videos, education. And the videos are first mindset, stress, and sleep for the first week. And they're doing their assessments. So we're looking at mobility, we're looking at strength. I look at their breathing, I look at their CO2 tolerance, I look at their resting heart rate. So we gather all that data the first week. And then the second week we do give them a program, but it's usually, like you said, mobility work. Sometimes I've actually started to move away from giving clients training programs right from the jump. And I started giving, at least give them something though. So I've been giving them breath work for 6 weeks, 6 weeks of breath work. We're going to work on stress. We're going to work on sleep. And maybe we're going to work on nutrient quality, but it depends on, what on our onboarding form, what's the most present for them, like what's the lowest hanging fruit. And for some people, most people, it's sleep. Like I would say like 90% of people just need to sleep more. So we work on sleep, we work on stress, and we work on nutrition. And then we dive into more targeted training, usually after 6 weeks of working together.
I'm bound and determined to disprove all the sleep bullshit. I tell you what, Sam.
Good luck.
And it's not by
Good luck.
Yeah.
Hey, so far I've done pretty well, okay? I've only averaged like 5 hours of sleep and I've made nothing but progress. But
You
Robot.
said that you might have autism, so
well, it's it's debatable. It's
Wow,
possible.
that does make more sense now. The sleep thing would buy way into that if that was actually the case. Now we're getting somewhere.
That's why
All
we're talking
right.
placebo effects. I don't let anything
Yeah.
count as a negative in my head.
Yeah.
Because like I use this stupid thing now, and then I use a Morpheus when I wake up in the morning to track. Yeah. And then I look at the numbers and I'm like, yeah, those don't mean shit. And then
well,
it's not
yeah,
till later
sometimes
in the
they
day
don't
when I
either,
perform
right?
terribly that I'm like, oh, maybe they did mean something. Do you have a lot of clients that wear devices like that for your purposes?
I never like require them to because it is rather expensive and it is a luxury to have. So I'm never going to tell them you have to go out and get an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch or whatever. A lot of them already have it. I do ask that they track their sleep one way or another. So the first rule I implement is phone goes away 30 to 60 minutes before bed. I literally don't care. Phone down 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Alex doesn't like
Good for
that
you.
one.
Yeah. No, good for you. Because, yeah,
I think
more
Sam would
people
fire
need to
me.
hear it. Keep screaming it.
Yeah, I don't think I want to coach you, Alex. And then so we try to track sleep, like if they don't have an actual aid to track it, it's like, all right, so you put your phone down. The phone tracks your sleep, right? It's like when you, whatever, I don't know how it does it, but it tracks it somehow. When you put it down to when you pick it up. So you just know if you put your phone down 30 minutes before bed, then that's about how much sleep you got. So sometimes it's an average, but we do try to track sleep at some to some capacity. Most people just have this stuff nowadays.
So I have this bright idea, and I haven't got anyone to give me the money that I want yet. But if they gave me the money I wanted, I would just give them the fucking device for free. Like,
Yeah.
you pick which one you want. Do you want the Oura Ring? Do you want the Apple Watch? Do you
Yep.
want the heart rate monitor? I don't give a shit. But if you pay me what I want, I will fucking send it to you.
I have thought about
That's
that
what people don't
so many
understand.
times. Just like, hey, here's your, like, maybe it's like a sign up fee or something, but then you just take the
Well, I would
sign
just
up fee
include it in
meeting.
like the amount I
Yeah.
charge per month is astronomical compared to most people, which I'm fine with if I can do all these things for you. Like I have a nutrition client. I literally went to the website for their local grocery store, picked out all the food that they needed, sent them their grocery list, and then sent them what they needed to eat every day to hit their macros perfectly. Like I'm fine with doing that if you're paying for my time to do that. But if you don't want to pay for it, then I don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing people don't realize is like it doesn't just stop with like, oh, you leave the gym and we're not going to help you anymore. It's like, no, I'll do whatever I can to help you if you're willing to compensate for that, or at least put it into practice.
Yeah.
That's just
Which
that time element. Like Sam was talking about, like she didn't have the time element when she was in PT, but do you feel like you have the ability now to go above and beyond to meet the needs of your clients, like hands down, no matter what, for your services?
Yeah, so I cap my roster.
Good choice.
I have, yeah, I recently hired another doctor on staff, so now any new clients that come in are going to her because I honestly have more on my roster than I would like right now because I had an assistant coach leave, so I had to absorb her clients. So right now I'm a little over what I would like, but it just means that I work a little longer. It doesn't mean that my quality of care diminishes. But I think that being a like CEO and doing all of that as well, I think there's a certain number of clients that I can take without quality of care suffering. So I have like certain times in my day where I go in and answer my messages, make sure that all my clients get answered. I have calls with them monthly, so every week I usually have at least like 3 or 4 calls with clients. Um, so I feel like I just get to talk to them a lot more than I do in PT, because when you're in PT, they're there like 1 to 3 times a week. Most of the time it's only like twice a week. So you see them for like 40 minutes a week and that's it. Whereas now I get to talk to them all the time. So
What is your magic number?
30, I think, is good. Right now I'm at 38. But again, I'm not taking on any more clients. So as their contracts end, my number is going down.
Now, do you have just like one tier of coaching that you offer and that's it, and everyone gets the same level of care, or do you have it tiered where like there's different price points and different levels of attention that people get?
Nope, everyone gets same level of attention. I offer 9 and 12 month packages and everything, training and nutrition, weekly check-ins, monthly calls. That's what's been working, and I don't want to try to give any less. I've thought about, I've heard other people capping like number of times that you can talk to them during the week, and I'm like, I just what if they need something and they already talked to me for their 2 times this week, but then they sprained their ankle or like, they need something. I'm like, I just, so everyone's the same.
What
I
does
have an
your
alumni
weekly check-in
program.
look like? Is it like just a survey they fill out, or what is that? Because I have such an extensive one that gives me great information, just nobody fucking does it.
Yeah. So whenever they don't do it, I always like I'll text them and just be like, you know how important this is. And I just always reiterate like my clients who like this holiday weekend. So I have 38 clients, right? I only did 19 check-ins this week. And that's not normal. Normally 90, my goal is to have 90, I think I get like 92, 93% of them filled out. And again, I'm not doing check-ins every single week with everybody, because if they have a call that week, we don't do a check-in. But this week it was the holiday week, so I texted them on Saturday in our group chat and I was like, "Hey guys, normal week. Yes, it's Memorial Day. I'm still working. I'm still doing check-ins. Remember how important your check-ins are for you to get the most out of this program. You're paying for this. Please do it." And my check-in's pretty extensive too. I've gotten that feedback before, like this is a lot, and I'm like, it is a lot, but that's the information that I need every week. So anyways, yeah, it's a form that they fill out. Sleep, stress, macro breakdowns, pain levels, training intensity, rate your adherence, tell me about your pain. I have a ton of questions in there. Tell me about your training. What did you feel good? Did you have PRs? What are some wins? What are some things you want to improve on? Set some goals for next week. Do you have any questions for me? So it's a pretty long form, but I'm like, if you sit down and do it, it'll take you like 10 to 15 minutes. Like really shouldn't take you like too long. It seems like a lot, but if you just sit down for 15 minutes every week, you'll be done.
Yeah, and that's
And
minimal
then
contact, right? Like it's not even shouldn't be that big of a deal.
yeah. And then and they have all day to do it. So some clients I check in with Mondays, some clients I check in with on Tuesdays, because I'm not going to do 40 check-ins on one day. That's a lot. Um, so then I will send them video feedback. So they fill out their form and then I use Loom. I don't know if you're familiar with Loom.
Yeah, I
Um,
just haven't implemented it as much as I should.
yeah, so because I like to talk. I will just blah, 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 blah. So it's easier for me. I
Didn't
hate
notice.
typing. I hate typing.
That's
So
fair. I get it. It's
I
much more
won't sit and
effective.
type. And I just feel like it's more personable when they can see me versus just sending a voice note.
So when you're doing the Loom, are you like going through the check-in as you're like talking back to them on the Loom?
I look through it first and I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
what are I don't
Main
want to
points.
overwhelm them. So I'm like, I try to pick out 2 to 3 main points for the week. Even if there's 4 or 5, I'm like, okay, what are the 2 to 3 lowest hanging fruit here? And that's what I'll give them feedback on. I do like the sandwich too. I still don't know. There's some psychology that's like the positive sandwich is good, and then they're like, no, it's bad. And I'm like, I
I
don't
think the
know.
sandwich thing is probably most effective for most people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, now you got me thinking. But I literally my app sends them an email to remind them, and they get a fucking notification in the app. And I think this week I got 5 people out of the 30 people that I have. I'm like,
Do you,
fuck are you guys doing?
I think what helped for me is because that was happening when I first started, and I just set expectations. So I do an onboarding call. So it's like a Zoom call when they first start. I'm like, these are the expectations. You fill out your check-in. If you don't fill out your check-in on time, I'm not doing it. And that's something I used to do in the beginning is if they filled it out late, I would still get it back to them. So I wasn't upholding my boundaries. But
Mhm.
now it's like, if you send it in a minute late, it's late. Like, I'm sorry. If I finish check-ins and it's not there, I'm not doing it because that is the expectation that we set, and you need some level of accountability. Because if you are going to go and do this for the rest of your life, you need to have that self accountability. I can't sit here and hold your hand and tell you to fill out your check-in every week.
I like this. This makes a lot of sense because people are like, "Oh, you actually read those?" I go, "Yeah, I fucking read them. What do you think I do? I just send them out for fun." Like, no, I'm not reading it. Like, yeah, of course, especially when they're online and I don't get to see them multiple times a
Yeah.
week in person. I
I
need those things. Like, I
I
have no idea
always
what's going on.
I always
Mhm.
get well, I just say the same things. I'm like, then say the same things. That's fine. Like, just
Yeah.
these are we're
Makes it
tracking
easier for
your
you.
yeah,
That's
we're
when you should tell
tracking.
them,
And it's
Nathan, well,
five
be a little
minutes.
more creative and come up with something better.
I'm just like, well, that's a good sign that what we're doing is progressing in the right manner. Like, it sounds like we're not killing you, we're not overstimulating, you're not sore, you're not hurt, we're not like good. Like, tell those are feedbacks for me to know in my programming that I'm doing the right things to help
Yeah.
you. And they're like, well, we just figure you get tired of reading the same stuff. I'm like, it's okay. Like,
Quit projecting your laziness onto me. I would
just do it.
appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just do it. Just freaking do it. Because I'm like you. I'm like, well, I got 2 this week. All right, here we go. So
Yeah. I like the Loom idea though. That's good. I'm
that
gonna
is a
start
good
doing that
idea.
because
Yeah,
then that keeps them more
Yeah.
accountable.
that's
No,
immediately.
rarely do I
Yeah,
usually get clients who aren't filling them out. Usually there's like a couple of the same every week that I'm like, hey, why aren't we doing this? But I have noticed an increase in the number of clients doing it based on how I've changed my process and also just the clients that I'm calling in. Like I'm trying to sign more like empowered people who actually want to be here.
Mhm.
And like some people just want to do something to say they're doing something and they don't
Mhm.
actually want to do it. So that's why they won't fill out their check-ins. Like I don't want those people.
And what's crazy is you'll get those people at every single price point imaginable, which is fucking blows me away.
Crazy.
I'm like, wait a
Crazy.
second, I charge more money and you're still doing the same shit. Like, how do I get rid of this?
Yeah.
And then there's people I help for free that'll do way more than anyone that pays me money. And I'm like, I don't fucking get it. Like, it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of that this summer. So it is what it is. I don't know.
Well, it's fascinating. I try to use the money as an incentive because everyone's motivated by it,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what it is. And it's like, okay, you need to be skin in the game and I need to be excited to help you. Right. So if you're not willing to do what I'm saying in the beginning, then you need to at least be compensating me to try and make you understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what are we doing? We're
Well,
just running our fucking head into the wall.
right. I'm offering a free service this summer with a bunch of these high school kids, to train them, and a lot of their sports stuff is starting to pick up, and we're starting to slide further and further down the totem pole of like what's prioritized, obviously. And I had this conversation with Arlie today. I was like, well, yeah, duh. We're going to be last because we're a free service first. And because we're already a low priority thing anyway, because when sports pick up, all these kids and all these parents pick all the sports stuff first before they prioritize their strength and conditioning and their health and their nutrition and all that. So you throw that on top of free, we're definitely not going to get prioritized. They're going to go to the sports stuff way before they even think about coming to us. So
Just need to explain it to them. It's like driving your car more without doing any maintenance. Like it's not going to perform better.
sure. Yeah.
You're not going to get more out of it by
But
doing more driving.
the ones that do get it are still here. So those are the people that I'm going to target, obviously, after this little summer session is over, to be like, hey, you guys are the ones that got it. You understand. You're the type of people we want to work with. You're the clients that I would like to pick up. Here's where we go from here with our services. So it helps me weed people out as well. So I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
Sam, what are some of the things you found to be most successful for you as far as calling in the correct type of clients through social media? Because I feel like you do a really good job with all of those things usually.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I've been really intentional about my language. So I want to, first I'm like, okay, what message do I want to put out there? Like, for example, today I just posted an athletic lower body workout because that's what people want to see. So I put that out, and then the caption, I don't even talk about the workout, but I put it there so you could follow it if you want to. But in the caption, I talk about how women should see themselves and posture themselves more as athletes. And that is helping me call in more of that empowered buyer, someone
I read it,
who,
to be honest with you.
thanks. And so I'm just like, sometimes I'll write things out and I'm like, I try not to touch on pain points too much. I try to bring people more to like the post I have tomorrow, you'll see too, is more like I'm trying to bring people to pleasure and where they want to be instead of like if you call someone in who's like already who's in so much pain and then they're like that pain kind of buyer, it's just I
You're
just
selling
don't
the
feel like it
vacation, you're
works
not
out.
selling the journey.
Yeah,
It's very smart.
because I just don't think that yeah, it just doesn't always sell too well. So I try to speak more positive. I try to speak more empower. I'm like, you are not the type of person who is lazy, or you are not the type of person who does XYZ. Like you're the type of person who shows up, who implements, who goes above and beyond, and then that empowers them.
Yeah, you're selling them their future self. And then meanwhile, you have to show them how to get to point B.
Yeah. And
Makes
I
a lot of
think that
sense.
that's been more successful.
I always forget that for some reason because I'm always stuck in the process. So I'm just like, well, what should I talk about? And I'm like, well, being stuck in the process is the whole fucking thing. So, but
Keeps
I'm also
continuing.
never satisfied. So I don't know when that process ends for
It
me.
doesn't.
Like,
It never ends. Don't even act like it does. Whatever your goals
just
are, the
mile
process,
markers on the way.
yeah, it never ends. It never ends. It's always people always ask me like, when do we like stop doing this? I'm like, do we? I don't. There's not
When you
a.
don't wake up the next day.
Yeah, there's not a. It. Well, when you're dead, yeah. Like I'm trying to further and better myself for as long as I can until I'm not here anymore. So
Gotcha. Didn't know that this was a forever thing, but it is.
it's here. Yeah. Sorry about you.
That's also what I sell in the beginning too, is I'm just like, this is a lifelong journey. It's not going to happen. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. And it's not going to be something that you just do with me for 12 months. Like, this is something that you do for the rest of your life. So you got to be ready.
What does your so you said you sell 9 month, 12 month. Okay, so someone stays with you 9 month, 12 month. What does that look like? Like what you're talking about beyond that 9 to 12 month period? How do you just do you have a really good retention rate, or do you just kind of push them on and move them on and just kind of check in with them or as you go, or how does that work after those 9 to 12 month programs usually for you?
Yeah. I do have another call I have to jump off for, but I will answer this quickly. Um, so what are you gonna say, Alex? You feel like you're
Nope,
about to
we're just
talk?
ready for the answer
Because
because it's the
somebody
last
didn't
thing
read
we're
the
getting.
email. That's all.
Unbelievable. She's
Clearly
fired.
states 2 hours, but
She's
it's okay.
fired.
Um,
He's like, fuck you guys.
anyways,
This is enough of this.
so what I do is I have an alumni program that I'll push them into where we'll focus on whatever their weak points are. So at the beginning, it's training and nutrition, full boat. And then the alumni program is, are we just focusing on training or are we just focusing on nutrition? Um, and or if I feel like they're ready, what I try to do is if they've gotten the most out of this program, which is by using everything that I give them, the last couple months with me, they will have they will be building their own programs. And we'll move out of me building the programs, they'll build a program, I'll review it and give them that feedback. And then they go off and they do it on their own. And then this is where we also transition from like macro tracking to intuitive eating if that's something that they want to do. So obviously Alex isn't on board with the whole intuitive eating thing, but some people just like don't want to track for the rest of their life. And if they really were here to get out of pain and they learned a lot about nutrition, like just in my mind, it's not necessary for them to continue tracking unless they end up having some specific goals in the future. Like if they're just like happy with where they're at, then we transition to intuitive. So I give them that like bridge so that again, they can learn how to do this on their own instead of me having to hold their hand the entire time. So sometimes they'll end. A lot of my clients end up staying with me for 1 to 2 years. So they like the additional support, even if they feel like they can do it on their own. They have new goals to hit, new bench PRs, deadlift PRs, squat PRs, whatever. So we continue with that. But yeah, that's what it kind of looks like. I like the alumni program for a lot of people at first, and then whenever we feel like they're ready, they bridge out.
good. That's a good way to move them on. Yeah, I like that. Well, Sam, we won't take any more of your time. Go jump on your
Yes,
call.
thank you for taking your time
Thank
today.
you.
Appreciate
I
it.
Absolutely.
appreciate you guys. This was fun.
We'll have to do a part 2 because you're like our shortest guest ever, but we're not going to talk about that.
That's all right.
I'll
Quality
do a
over
part 2.
quantity. Quality over quantity.
It didn't
See-
add to my Google Calendar when you sent it. I got the
Unbelievable.
link, but it
Zoom is a
doesn't
piece of shit
say.
like that. I don't know what to tell you. I'm
It
very
is.
sorry.
Yep.
That's why, because you messaged me and I was like, oh yeah, wait, what time is that at? Because it's not on my
And I was
calendar.
waiting
And I
for like,
live and die
yeah,
by
about
it.
that. Sorry, it's not happening. I was like, cool.
Hey, at least you didn't cancel. So
Yeah,
Well,
I
at
mean,
least
an
I
hour is
remembered to
better than no
confirm.
hour.
If I wouldn't have remembered to confirm, me and Nathan just be sitting here arguing about something stupid.